Round.
Has everyone figured out those technical difficulties yet, or do we still need a little more time?
No, Your Honor.
No, they haven't been resolved yet.
We're still trying to get our last witness on.
Okay.
We have a witness in the waiting room.
Okay. Hang on one second.
I got it, Cameron.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Cameron Meunier. I'll be presiding over this case today. Can we go ahead and start with entries of appearance? I'll start with the plaintiff's attorneys. You could introduce yourselves, counsel, and introduce your witnesses.
Good afternoon, Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Malia Bauer. I will be presenting the opening statement for the plaintiff. I will also be presenting the direct of Carson Durst and the cross of Skylar Weirs.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Caitlin Conley. I will be directing Dakota Weirs as well as crossing Blake Duncourt.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Emily Duran. I will be directing Dr. Casey Rogers, cross-examining Dr. Devin Williams, and providing the closing statement for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Lorena Brady, and I am Dakota Weirs.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Mary Strasser, and I am Dr. Casey Rogers.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Jamie LeMay, and I am Carson Durst.
Thank you. And for plaintiffs, are you ready to proceed to trial? Counsel for the plaintiffs, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And now for the defense attorneys, if you could please enter your appearances and introduce your witnesses.
Good morning, Your Honor. I am Cecina Abraha. On behalf of the defense, I will be direct examining Dr. Devin Williams and cross-examining Dr. Casey Rogers.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Zach Hines, and I will be direct examining Skylar Weirs and cross-examining Carson Durst. I will also be providing you with the closing statement for the defense.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Josie Coster on behalf of the defense. I will be conducting the direct examination of Blake Doncourt and the cross-examination of Dakota Weirs, as well as presenting the opening statement for the defense.
Thank you. Is that everyone for the defense?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Matthew Denfeld. I will be assuming the role of Blake Doncourt.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Isabella Marquez, and I will be assuming the role of Skylar Weirs.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Maura Lorden, and I'll be Devin Williams.
Thank you. All right, before we get started, just a few things. I'll start with the plaintiffs. Can I just have you screen share your team roster for us for just a couple seconds? So the scoring panel and I can see that, please.
Your Honor, give me 1 second. I'm experiencing some technical difficulties.
Sure, of course.
Your Honor, this is our roster. There is a spelling error though.
Okay.
Jamie LeMay, who is witness 3 and is Carson Durst. His name is missing an I. So it's Jamie.
Great, thank you. And if you could just leave that up for just a second. Great, thank you.
Hi, Your Honor. There's also a spelling error in my name. It is Caitlin, not Caitlyn.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and take that down. And for the defense, are you ready to proceed to trial? And if so, could you also please quickly screen share your team roster with us?
Yes, Your Honor. We are also experiencing minor technical difficulties. We have a few minutes.
Of course.
Here's our roster.
Great, thank you. Just leave that up for just 1 second so the scoring panel has a chance to look at that.
Your Honor, there's also a slight error in our roster.
Okay.
Lawyer 4, Josie Coster, is actually going to be doing the opening, and lawyer 5, Zach Hines, is going to be doing the closing.
Got it. Thank you. All right, you can go ahead and take that down. Thank you. And I will go ahead and ask the scoring panel, do any of you have a reason that you believe you might be biased in judging either of these teams based on those rosters?
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
No, Judge.
Thank you. All right, before we get started, there are just a few other preliminary matters I need to go over real quickly. I just need to confirm if there are any other video recorders present. It doesn't look like there are, though we are live streaming. The Colorado Bar Association may be taking pictures, I imagine maybe of the screens during the competition. And by participating in the tournament, you have granted automatic permission for them to do that. If there's anyone in the gallery who is not connected with the teams competing in this round, I will have to ask you to leave the gallery of the courtroom or the live stream. I'm just reminding the teams that no recesses will be allowed with the exception of those for health emergencies. So keep that in mind. I apologize, 1 second. Any disputes that arise out of the competition have to be reported in accordance with the tournament rules, so also keep that in mind. I would just like to confirm that no coach or team member, with the exception of timekeepers, are seated in the jury box or part of the scoring panel. Okay, don't hear anyone saying anything about that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and swear in the attorneys, the gallery, the panelists, and the witnesses. So I'll start with the teams. So if the teams could turn on their cameras, please. And I'll go ahead and have you all raise your right hand. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? I see nodding heads. If you could just unmute and say yes, I would appreciate that.
Yes.
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 Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And then additional swearing in for the witnesses. Witnesses, can you raise your right hand? Do you promise the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. If there are any gallery members, you can go ahead and raise your right hands for me. Gallery members, including teacher and attorney coaches, family members, and friends, please raise your right hands. You promise to represent yourselves as positive role models and to behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical and professional sportsmanship during and after this mock trial round. And I believe all of those people are on the live stream, so we won't have a response from them. And finally, scoring panelists, please raise your right hands for me. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. All right. With those preliminary matters out of the way, we can go ahead and get started with the trial. We will start with the plaintiff. Would you like to make an opening statement?
Your Honor, may we present our preliminaries?
Oh, yes. Of course.
Your Honor, we ask that when exhibits are projected for the witnesses, they be considered constructively out of sight of the jury until they are admitted.
That is granted.
We also ask that after exhibits are admitted, they be considered constructively published to the jury.
Yes.
And we also ask that if a technological issue is not obvious to you, Your Honor, that we may have a team member be able to step in and inform you.
Yes. Thank you.
That's all of our.
Any other preliminary matters from the other side?
Yes, Your Honor. Defendant requests that all parties agree that all attorneys, witnesses, and the judge have access to all exhibits and can refer to them directly without having to screen share them.
Yes, we can go ahead and do that. That will help streamline everything. As long as you just make clear what you are directing people to, that should be fine.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other preliminary matters?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks. All right, so plaintiff, would you like to present an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
May it please the court, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing and co-counsel. Carelessness, concealment, catastrophe. My name is Malia Bauer, and together with my co-counsels, Miss Emily Duran and Miss Caitlin Conley, I am proud to represent 20-year-old Miss Dakota Weirs, a victim of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer not caused by genetics. No, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is caused by exposure to a carcinogen in her environment, and we believe that the evidence will show that her work as a landscaper has exposed her to the products of Lush fertilizer and the carcinogen that has stolen her youth, stolen her health, stolen her talents. You will learn that Miss Weirs was a concert pianist who had earned a scholarship to Juilliard. Stolen her promise, stolen her dreams, and may even steal her life. This is a catastrophe that was driven by the carelessness and concealment of Lush fertilizer. Today, it is Miss Weirs' burden to prove to you, by a preponderance of the evidence, more probably true than not, that Lush fertilizer failed to properly warn users about the dangers of their product. It is our assertion that this was negligence and that negligence resulted in Miss Weirs' damages. You're going to learn today that Lush fertilizer manufactures a fertilizer product containing a chemical compound known as Drufo. There is no question about that. Miss Weirs will testify today that she has worked as a landscaper since she was 14 years old, and she used Lush fertilizer in her job. Manufacturers of products have duties. They have a duty to exercise reasonable care to prevent that product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm. If there is a risk of harm, the manufacturer has to provide warning. There was no warning to Lush fertilizer's users of possible harm. On the subject of what was done and what should have been done by Lush fertilizer, you will hear from 5 witnesses. We will also present Miss Dakota Weirs. Dr. Casey Rogers, a university professor at Berkeley, will testify and explain a study she performed. This study found a link between Drufo and serious health conditions and diagnoses, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Carson Durst, formerly on the research and development team for Lush fertilizer, working directly on evaluating the safety of Drufo, will tell you about his personal experience with the concealment of information regarding the risks of Drufo. The defense will present Lush fertilizer's CEO, Blake Doncourt. Mr. Doncourt will discuss the company's efforts to improve the environment with their flagship product. But please ask yourself, at what cost? You're going to hear an accusation from the defense that Miss Weirs is partially to blame for her cancer. We think after hearing their argument, you will come to one conclusion, that Lush fertilizer is careless. Dr. Devin Williams, an employee of Lush fertilizer, will also testify for the defense. He is primarily here to criticize Dr. Rogers' work. Please keep in mind who writes his paychecks. Part of your duty as a jury is to consider the motive and bias of the witnesses brought before you. Lastly, the defense will bring you Miss Weirs' twin, Skylar Weirs, who they hope to convince you is an expert worthy of weighing in on this serious subject. Please keep in mind this minor's lack of credentials and their motives and interests. Lush Fertilizer is very proud of their product. It was designed to solve an environmental problem, but at what cost? Unfortunately, there has been a great cost to Dakota Weirs. Physical, mental, emotional, pain, suffering, and more. All of those intangible things that make life worth living, ladies and gentlemen. While Lush Fertilizer may be able to create spreadsheets showing the cost of avoiding harm to their users, no such spreadsheet exists for the value of what we call non-economic damages. That is up to you. At the end of this trial, you will be asked to value Dakota Weir's loss. And when you do, we want you to keep in mind what this catastrophe has stolen from her. Thank you.
Your Honor, I believe that you are muted.
I am. Thank you. Thank you, counsel for the plaintiff. Counsel for defendant, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Josie Koster, and I, together with my colleagues, represent the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, who has been wrongly accused of purposely neglecting to warn customers of the dangers of its product. Dangers that do not exist. You see, this is a case of tactless manipulation. Manipulation by the plaintiff's attorneys of Ms. Weirs. Naturally, in a time of great uncertainty, Ms. Weirs is searching desperately for any explanations to make sense of her suffering. And others see this, particularly Lush's competitors. Taking a hold of Ms. Weirs' fear like the strings of a puppet, Lush's competitors and the attorneys of the plaintiff are manipulating her, disregarding the facts of the case and taking advantage of her pain to damage Lush's reputation and gain an economic advantage in a very competitive industry, a dynamic common in the world of agritech. Ms. Weirs' disease is real, that's certain. But the accusations against Lush are simply not. Lush spent years thoroughly researching, creating, and testing an environmentally friendly fertilizer that decreases the amount of harmful chemicals both the land and the user is exposed to. This fertilizer has dominated the market for a reason, now being used worldwide. Certainly, a position that leaves its competitors envious. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the plaintiff will try to convince you that Lush Fertilizer was negligent in releasing its fertilizers in order to get a competitive edge in the industry. To do so, the plaintiffs must clearly show that the Drufo in Lush Fertilizer not only generally causes non-Hodgkin lymphoma, but specifically caused Ms. Weirs non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and that Lush did not take the proper precautions to know of and prevent these dangers. However, as the scientific evidence will prove, this is simply not true. Lush Fertilizer underwent intense testing during its development, each time proving its safety. However, even if the plaintiff manages to prove that Drufo did cause Ms. Weirs' condition, we will prove that the plaintiff did not take the proper precautions when handling any chemical. As you will hear from Ms. Weirs herself, she continuously failed to wear protective gear while working with any products. As such, Ms. Weirs was recklessly exposed to countless other chemicals in other fertilizers and products while working as a landscaper. Any one of these harsh chemicals likely could have resulted in her condition. To assure you that there's been no negligence on Lush's part, 3 witnesses will be called to the stand. First, you will hear from Mr. Blake Doncourt. Mr. Doncourt is the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer and an avowed environmentalist. He will give insight on the company's thorough testing for Lush Fertilizer, which has determined time and time again that there has been no substantiated concern that the use of Drufo is dangerous in any way. Mr. Doncourt will also show you that Carson Durst, one of the plaintiff's lead witnesses, may have ulterior motives for what he's claimed. Next, you'll hear from Ms. Skylar Weirs, Dakota Weirs' twin sister. Ms. Weirs is an investigative journalist who researched and wrote about the safety of Drufo before her sister's diagnosis. Ms. Weirs is very knowledgeable in the world of modern agritech and will tell you about the prominence of bought and paid for pseudoscientific hit jobs. Finally, you'll hear from Dr. Devin Williams. Dr. Williams leads the toxicology and research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer. She will tell you that Drufo is a revolutionary product that is far better for the planet and for people in general than the old generation of fertilizers. The plaintiff will likely try to confuse you by discussing a ban on Drufo in France, implying that Drufo is dangerous. However, Dr. Williams will show you that this ban is not because of any latent cancer, but because of a blanket directive. It is a ban that could have easily been fought had Lush had the resources at the time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please do not let the opposition manipulate your ruling with their lies as they have Ms. Weirs. Do not believe the words coming from the puppeteers' mouths. Do not allow their emotional plea to open the scientific facts already established the safety of Drufo. And simultaneously, while Ms. Weir's disease is unfortunate, the plaintiff will not be able to prove that it was caused by Drufo. At the conclusion of this trial, the defense will ask they find in favor of our client and put it into this mess that commercial competition has dragged innocents into. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. For the plaintiff, please call your first witness.
Your Honor, I would like to call Dakota Weirs to the stand.
Ms. Weirs, can you raise your right hand, please? You swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your witness, counsel.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. Can you please state and spell your name for the jury?
Dakota Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
Thank you. I would first like to start with, how old are you?
I am 20 years old.
Are you currently diagnosed with an illness?
Yes, I am.
And what is your diagnosis?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And are there things you can no longer do to your illness?
So many things.
Objection, Your Honor. Leading question.
Response.
Your Honor, I believe that my question is not leading.
I'll go ahead and overrule the objection. You can go ahead and re-ask the question.
Is there things you can no longer do due to your illness?
There is so much I can no longer do because of my illness.
And were you enrolled in school?
Yes, I was enrolled in school.
And what was this school?
It was Juilliard.
And have you been able to proceed with those plans?
No, I have not been able to proceed with these plans.
And how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel devastated. Everything changed so fast.
And do you play any musical instruments?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
And what is that instrument?
I play the piano.
And how did you get into piano?
It was my grandfather that taught me to play.
And how has this diagnosis affected that connection with your grandfather?
I feel like little by little, I'm losing him more every second that I cannot play.
And you mentioned that there are things you can no longer do due to your illness. What are these things?
Well, I was a very active member in my community. I like to volunteer, and I can no longer do that. And as stated before, I can no longer play the piano.
And how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel
Objection, Your Honor. Relevancy.
Response.
Your Honor, the relevance is the relevance towards the witness's emotions, losing the instrument that they love and not being able to pursue it because of Drufo in Lush fertilizer.
You have a reply, counsel.
I do not see how she feels about not being able to play the piano has anything to do with Lush's part in her illness.
I think this may go to the issue of damages, so I'm going to go ahead and overrule the objection. You can re-ask the question, counsel.
And Dakota, do you have a current caretaker?
Yes, I do.
And who are your caretakers?
My current caretaker are my lovely parents.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Counsel for defendant, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
Good
go ahead.
afternoon, Ms. Weirs. My name is Josie Coster, and I will be conducting your cross-examination today. Let's begin by discussing your sister, Skylar Weirs. Isn't it true that the relationship with your sister is strained due to financial stress?
A part of it, yes.
And this, in large part, is because of your medical bills?
I would say, yeah, that is a certain part in our corruption of our relationship.
But if you win this case, you will receive money, correct?
Correct, yes, I will.
Meaning that at least some of your financial stress will be alleviated?
Yes, it will.
Wouldn't this, in turn, lift stress off of your family as a whole?
I mean, of course, it's not the sole reason, but yes, of course.
And yet your sister is still testifying against you?
As a matter of fact, yes, she is.
Let's move on now to your handling of Lush fertilizer. Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to Exhibit 1. Let the record reflect I am showing the witness Exhibit 1.
And could you tell me what that exhibit is, counsel?
It is the label of Lush fertilizer.
Thank you.
Do you recognize this?
I do not see it yet, Your Honor.
Okay. In the preliminaries, we asked to not screen share. Are you able to get this at hand?
Do you have a witness, Ms. Weirs? Do you have a copy of the exhibit in front of you?
No, I do not.
Okay. We'll
Would
need
you-
to screen share then.
Okay. Yes, please. Your Honor, my co-counsel will screen share in just a second.
Thank you.
Your Honor, permission to pause time for technical difficulties.
Just take a minute, yes.
Thank you. I can try. I apologize, Your Honor. I'm screen sharing now, if I'm able to.
Go
Are
ahead
you
and
able
make
to see
sure
it?
the time is going again, please.
Are you able to see the exhibit?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
It's the label of Lush fertilizer, correct?
Yes.
It shows the ingredients, hazards, and user safety recommendations, correct?
Yes, that is what I see.
Does this show the label exactly as you remember it from when you worked with Lush products?
Let me take a good look at it. Yes, it does seem accurate.
Thank you. Your Honor, I believe I have laid sufficient ground and move that Exhibit 1 be entered as evidence.
Is there any objection to the admission of this exhibit?
Objection relevance.
Response?
Your Honor, may I respond? Oh,
Yes, please.
Your Honor, we are discussing the Lush fertilizer, and so the contents and warnings of Lush fertilizer are necessary in order to prove that it did indeed cause Ms. Weir's condition, and it lays foundation for further questioning.
I'll go ahead and overrule the objection and admit the exhibit. I do think it is relevant to the issues in this case.
Could you please read the user safety recommendations for me as they are written on the label?
Yes, of course. As with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use or N95 face mask is recommended. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning/maintaining personal protective equipment. Users should wash hands before and after the use of this product.
Your Honor, permission to stop screen sharing?
Yes.
Your boss instructed you to follow these recommendations, correct?
Yes, he did.
And yet you chose not to?
Me and many others.
Instead of the required long sleeves, pants, gloves when working with fertilizers, you wore shorts and t-shirts, correct?
As stated before, yes, me and many others.
And you also refused to follow your boss's instructions to cover your face when working with chemicals?
During this time, yes, but not always.
Let's now discuss other possible origins of your condition. Is it correct that you used several other fertilizers and lawn chemicals during your time at Haven Landscaping?
Yes, I used many types of fertilizers.
And did any of these other fertilizers and chemicals you used have some sort of warning on the packaging?
I mean, yes, I would say they did.
And that was lots of them, right?
Of warnings?
Lots of the products had warnings on their packaging?
Yes, they're made that way.
Meaning that at least some of these other fertilizers and chemicals were known to cause various dangers?
Per se, yes.
Yet your failure to follow protocol with protective covering was not limited to just while you were using Lush fertilizer, correct?
As stated before, yes, me and many others.
Meaning that you failed to wear a protective covering while using these other fertilizers and chemicals as well?
Yes, that is
Objection, speculation.
Response?
Your Honor, the witness states in their testimony that they did not use protective covering while on the job. They do not specifically say that it was just while using Drufo.
You have a reply, counsel.
Just because it is not in the testimony does not mean that it isn't speculation.
I'll go ahead and overrule the objection. You can re-ask the question.
Meaning that you failed to wear protective covering while using these other chemicals and fertilizers as well?
Of course, I didn't want to suffer from a heat stroke.
So it's safe to say that every now and then you would ignore some of these warnings?
Yes, me and many others.
Is there mention anywhere in your testimony that you collected the labels and warnings of any product you had used while on the job other than Lush fertilizer?
No, I did not collect or carefully examine these products.
So there is the possibility that any of these other chemicals that you used over your many years at Haven Landscaping could be linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Your Honor, objection, speculation.
Your Honor,
Response?
may I reply?
Yes.
Your Honor, as the burden of proof falls on the plaintiff to prove that it was Lush and not any other product that caused Ms. Weir's cancer, it is necessary to bring up what remains in the realm of probability in regards to her cancer's link to another product, as this question does.
I think at this point, this is a little speculative, so I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Did you search any of these many other chemicals they used for a link to non-Hodgkin lymphoma as insurance that it couldn't be them?
No, I did not. I
Thank
felt
you, Your
not the
Honor.
need.
No further questions.
Counsel for the plaintiff, do you have any brief redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mears. You can step down. Counsel for plaintiff, please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand. Good afternoon.
Good
Sorry.
afternoon, Dr. Rogers. Can you please raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your witness, counsel.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, can you please state and spell your name for the court?
Yes. Casey Rogers, Rogers.
Thank you. And Dr. Rogers, are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
And where are you employed?
I work for the University of California at Berkeley in their science department for horticulture and entomology.
And what is your current education level?
I have a PhD in agriculture and entomology from the University of California at Berkeley.
What other education have you received?
I have my PhD of science in agriculture and chemistry from Colorado State University.
And Dr. Rogers, what is your work experience?
I worked at a large multinational company as a research analyst for many years.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 6 be presented by my co-counsel on the screen.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, one of our co-counsels who's supposed to be crossing this witness is having trouble with turning on her microphone and video.
Is she able to
Is it
hear?
okay? She's able to hear, but she isn't able to speak or see.
Okay.
Is she able to, could we have her disconnect and reconnect?
Yes, please do that very quickly.
Thank you.
Your Honor, have we stopped time for this technical difficulty?
Yes, very briefly, we will.
Your Honor, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Continue.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, what is this document?
This is a copy of my curriculum vitae.
Is it a fair and accurate copy of your CV?
Yes, it is.
Do you update this document regularly?
Yes, I do.
And did you create this document?
I did.
Dr. Rogers, is this document kept as a regular course of business?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 6 be moved into evidence.
Any objection, counsel?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 6 is admitted.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, have you created a list of publications?
Yes, I have.
And on this list, does it include articles on Drupo?
Yes, I have written extensively about the harmful causes of DRUFO.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 7 be presented by my co-counsel on the screen for my witness.
Yes.
Dr. Rogers, what is this document?
This is a list of all of my published works.
And on this list, are there the articles that you have written on Drupo?
Yes, there are.
Did you create this list?
I did.
Is this list updated regularly?
It is.
And is this list kept as part of your regular course of business?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I ask to move Exhibit 7 into evidence.
Any objection, counsel?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 7 is admitted.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, how many years have you been studying the negative effects of chemicals on the body?
For many, many years.
Your Honor, at this time, I ask that the court recognize Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert witness in agriculture, negative effects of chemicals on the body, and the herbicide Drupo specifically, to provide opinions about this case under Rule 702.
Any objection or voir dire, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. I have short voir dire.
Go ahead.
Dr. Rogers, are you currently employed as a professor in agriculture and entomology?
Yes, I am.
And this is your primary focus at the present time?
Yes, it is.
However, you do have a bachelor's in chemistry, agriculture, and entomology, correct?
Yes, I do.
And your primary focus is on agriculture and entomology?
Yes, it is.
In fact, you'd agree with me that you only have an interest in toxicology?
Yes.
And you teach 0 courses in toxicology?
Yes, I don't teach any courses on toxicology.
And you have no degrees in toxicology?
No.
And you also have no educational background on toxicology at all, correct?
Specifically, no.
Okay. Dr. Rogers, have any of your recent articles pertained to anything other than Drupo?
No, I don't think so.
In fact, all of your recent publications are actually only about Drupo, correct?
Yes, I care very deeply about this matter.
Your Honor, the defense objects to Dr. Casey Rogers being admitted as an expert in toxicology because Dr. Rogers does not have the qualifications under Rule 702, because they do not have the education pertaining to toxicology, any training pertaining to the conduct of experiments on Drupo, and do not have an unbiased knowledge, as the only experiments ever conducted by them was solely on Drupo.
Any reply, counsel?
Your Honor, I am not asking to have Dr. Rogers be qualified as an expert on toxicology, just agriculture, the chemical Drupo, and negative effects of chemicals on the body.
Will she be limiting her opinion to negative effects of Drupo on the body?
Negative effects of chemicals on the body, and then Drupo specifically.
Under 702, I'm going to find that the doctor's specialized knowledge, training, and experience qualifies her to be an expert in agriculture, the negative effects of chemicals on the body, particularly Drupo. I will overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Rogers, are you concerned about agricultural products on the market?
Oh, yes, definitely. There are many products that are concerning to me.
And what are you concerned about specifically?
Well, Drupo specifically, I've been concerned about that since it was first introduced on the market.
And why are you concerned about Drupo?
I believe that there are a lot of harmful effects of Drupo, and it was not properly researched.
Did you do anything about this concern?
Yes, I definitely did. I decided to take matters into my own hand and conduct my own study.
And what was your goal for this study?
My goal was to determine if Drupo, in fact, did lead to an increase of the development of cancers, including non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
And what was your prior knowledge going into this study?
I knew that Drupo has been proven carcinogenic in rats, meaning that it gives them cancer.
And what did you do first in your study?
Well, I started by organizing 3 different groups of people, one of them being people who were never exposed to Drufo, excuse me. The second group was people who were exposed to Drufo on a semi-regular basis, and the third and final group consisted of people who were exposed to Drufo on a very regular, almost daily basis.
And what did you monitor these people for?
I monitored them over the course of many years for the development of health conditions such as cancer.
And throughout your study, did it produce any results?
Yes, it definitely did.
And what were these results?
Well, it showed that those who were exposed to Drufo occasionally were 5 times more likely to develop cancers than those who were never exposed to Drufo. And those who were exposed to Drufo on a regular, almost daily basis were 10 times more likely to develop cancers, including non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Dr. Rogers, as part of your work on this case, were you able to review anything else?
Yes, I was.
And what did you review?
I was able to review Dakota Weir's medical records.
And in looking at these medical records, did it help you in forming your expert opinions on this case?
Yes, they most definitely did.
What did you learn upon looking at these medical records?
I can confirm that Dakota Weir's did in fact, or does in fact have non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And in my opinion, her non-Hodgkin lymphoma is caused by her exposure to Drufo.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
For the defense cross-examination,
Yes, Your Honor.
go ahead.
You gained an interest in Drufo because you believed it was rushed, correct?
Yes, I definitely do.
You believe that there weren't sufficient studies on its safety, yes?
Yes, I do not think that there was sufficient research or studies done.
This led you to conducting your own experiments on Drufo, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever do an analysis of the studies conducted by Lush Fertilizer?
Yes.
You did analyze the studies conducted by Lush Fertilizer?
I believe that the studies weren't done fully, but I don't trust the results of it.
But did you analyze the studies?
Yes.
Dr. Rogers, I'd like to direct you to your affidavit.
And Dr. Rogers, do you have that in front of you or do you need it to be put up on the screen?
I do not have that in front of me.
Can we go ahead and screen share that then, please?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Honor. We're having a few technical difficulties.
At this point, I've given both sides some leniency in that. So from now on, we'll just keep the time running for exhibits.
Dr. Rogers, do you remember writing this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you just said.
Do you remember writing your affidavit?
I do.
May I direct you to line line. I'm sorry. So, not really the two documents. In your statement, you state that you did not go over Lush's studies on Drupal.
Which line are you referring to, please?
Hold on, I'm having a hard time viewing the document. I'm sorry, I'm not able to do this. Let's just go on. Yeah, let's just move on. You assumed the studies conducted by Lush were rushed, correct?
Yes, I definitely think they were.
Was your study on Drupal peer reviewed?
No, it was not, but I thought I'd done it thoroughly.
Was your study ever replicated?
No.
However, having peer review is important to solidify the validity of a study, correct?
I suppose if you think it, yes, there are some scientists who do believe that.
Okay. And having it replicated could remove bias and random chance.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question? I did not hear that.
Sorry. Having a study replicated could remove bias and random chance, correct?
Yes, it could.
So you put together your own study that evaluated the long-term risks of Drupal, correct?
Yes, I did.
And the study involved people who are exposed to Drupal on different levels, correct?
Yes, it did include that.
And different types of people who are exposed to Drupal were farm laborers, gardeners, and people who weren't involved in either, correct?
Yes.
These people are all exposed to vastly different environments and situations, correct?
Yes.
So would you agree that there's a lot of unaccounted for variables in this experiment?
Potentially. However, that's not what I was focusing on.
Okay. Specifically, the people at highest risk of exposure were farm laborers, correct?
Yes.
And farm laborers are generally exposed to much more intense chemicals and environments than gardeners and other people, correct?
I mean, sometimes yes.
Did these farm laborers only use Lush fertilizer?
I can't say for sure. That wasn't a part of my study, but I assume not.
And don't you agree that since they use other products, that it's hard to account their issues to Drupal?
Yes. However, there was a connection between Drupal.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Brief redirect for the plaintiff at all?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can go ahead and step down, doctor. Do you have any other witnesses for the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and call your next witness.
The plaintiff calls Carson Durst to the stand.
Mr. Durst, can you raise your right hand for me?
Yes, I apologize. Technical difficulties.
No problem. Do you swear affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Counsel, your witness.
Good afternoon, Mr. Durst. Can you please state and spell your name for the court?
Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
Thank you. Mr. Durst, what is your association with Lush Fertilizer?
So from around like the early 2000s to like about 2005, I used to be a product development engineer there.
And what was your What did you do as a product development engineer?
So I was essentially tasked with finding the dangers in the chemicals of Drufo and reporting them to my superiors so that those dangers can be eliminated.
What is Drufo?
So Drufo is the bonding agent within Lush's flagship fertilizer. It essentially bonds the other like ingredients in Drufo and like bonds them together so that they don't just go like this whenever you use it. So they stay together like this when you apply Drufo to grass or other uses.
And what was your role in the development of Drufo?
So I was tasked with finding literature related to nitrogen phosphorus carbonate, which is a specific chemical within Drufo, and seeing the dangers of that particular chemical.
Had there been any research done to that point?
There had been a couple in-house studies, but nothing much.
So what were you asked to do anything?
Yeah, so I was asked to dive into the literature of the fertilizer manufacturing world. It's actually quite interesting if you're educated in that sort of chemistry.
In your literature research, did you find any studies that concluded that that particular chemical may be harmful or injurious?
Yeah, so I found this one from England that found that nitrogen phosphorus carbonate, or C3NO9P.
Your Honor, hearsay.
Response?
Sorry, could you repeat the objection?
Hearsay.
I Could you clarify what you're objecting is hearsay?
You're directing his attention to the studies done in the EU, in France and England, but we're not in France or England right now. So these were studies done by those countries, not by him.
And counsel, just for future reference, could you direct your questions to me and not to opposing counsel?
Okay, sorry, Your Honor. This is talking about the studies that Mr. Durst did in his research and the studies that he was looking at. It is part of his research that he was asked to do by Lush Fertilizer.
Based on these arguments, I do find this is being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. It's hearsay, it's not a court statement, so I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay. Mr. Durst, did you keep notes during your research?
I did keep notes. That's something one generally does in my scientific field.
And did you note that study in your notes at the time you found it?
I did.
What date was that?
It was my dad's birthday, actually. It stuck out to me. It was June 10th of 2003.
And did you share your notes with Lush Fertilizer representatives?
Yeah, so I shared my notes with my manager, Gary Langley, who then shared it with people like above her.
And after you discovered that study about the rats and cancer, did Lush Fertilizer follow up on Drufo being carcinogenic?
Sort of. So we got direction a little bit after that, like a few months after, about a in-house study that was being done as a result of those findings.
And were you given any direction on how that study should be done?
Yes, I received a email that had the directions of that in-house study.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 4 be displayed on screen.
Yes.
Mr. Durst, can you identify Exhibit 4?
So this looks to me like that aforementioned email that I just spoke about, that outlined the the directions of that in-house study.
Can you identify the subject of the email?
So the subject reads verifying recent in-house study outcomes.
Your name is at the top. Why is that?
So I decided to print this out for my own reference while doing the study. And whenever you print out your name, or excuse me, whenever you print out something from your business account, your name just like goes on the top of the paper. I'm sure it happens to everybody.
Mr. Durst, is this a true and accurate copy of the email sent to you by Gary Langley on September 18th, 2003?
Yeah, it looks like it.
After you printed it out, what did you do with it?
I retained it in my own records.
Has it remained in your records since you printed it?
Yes, it's been almost 2 decades, but yes, it has.
Why did you print it out?
I wanted this email for directions while doing that study. I can be a little forgetful sometimes, so I like to have a paper copy of stuff.
And Mr. Durst, are you the custodian of your own records?
I am.
Your Honor, I would move Exhibit 4 into evidence.
Any objection? I'm sorry, was there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 4 will be admitted.
Mr. Durst, are you aware of what happened after that?
Yeah, so there was a meeting kind of after September, which was when the email was. So that meeting was convened to discuss the findings of that study.
And what happened after that meeting?
Well, can you repeat the question? I apologize.
What happened after that meeting?
So basically the reports of everyone that was in the meeting and all of my fellow product development engineers, it was compiled into one big report and then sent up the corporate ladder.
Was there any concern raised about Drufo containing a carcinogen?
Yes, there was, specifically a non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Did it appear that Alex Monroe and Gary Langley had heard that information?
Yeah, it appeared to me that they were listening to all of this rather intently, like they were hanging on every word.
Was there a written report generated with the result the work team shared that meeting?
There
Objection,
was.
Your Honor, relevancy.
Response?
Your Honor, this is talking about a report that was generated about the meeting that Mr. Durst and Gary and Mr. Durst was part of.
I'm going to go ahead and overrule the objection. I find that it's relevant.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Durst, did you read that report?
I did read the report.
Did the report make any suggestions?
Well, it suggested, okay, there were a bunch of suggestions as any big corporate written report. But the one that stood out to me really the most was that it suggested to bake Drufo, which would then completely eliminate all risk of Drufo being a carcinogen.
Did the final report mention non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, and to be really honest with you, I'm really, really surprised about that.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross-examination for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Durst. My name is Zach Hines, and I will be conducting your cross today. First, I'd like to direct your attention to your relationship with the Doncourt family. When did you meet Charles Doncourt?
Well, so my parents were really worked when I was a kid. So the Doncourts helped me out when I was younger because I'm an only child and my parents were just gone all the time. So it was a lot better than being alone.
And would you say you were friends?
I'd like to think so.
So then you were friends for a long time then?
Again, I'd like to think so.
And did any other applicants for Lush jobs have that same friendship?
No, however, my merit speaks for itself.
Thank you. That was a yes or no question. So, did you have an advantage over others who might have applied for that job?
I'd like to think I didn't. Excuse me.
And yet, you just stated that you had a friendship with them that other applicants might not have had.
I don't know what other applicants had.
And yet, you just stated that no other applicants had the same friendship with Mr. Doncourt that you did.
I cannot say for sure because this was, let's see. This was more than 20 years ago. I don't quite remember.
I'd like to direct your attention to your work at Lush Fertilizer. Were there complaints about your work at Lush Fertilizer?
I think a vendetta was out against me, so I'm not really sure if that was, if those were really the truth.
And how did this affect your work status?
It for sure didn't help it.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, sorry, it's been 20 years and I'm still not like quite over it. It did not make me feel very great. It made me feel like I had to walk on eggshells and everything I did was not good enough. And that's just not a great working environment, honestly.
Would you say it made you angry?
That could be an adjective to describe it.
So you were influenced by emotions when you went into the meeting with Mr. Doncourt.
Well, who isn't influenced by emotions a little bit?
And did you get the answer you wanted from Mr. Doncourt?
No, I did not get the answer from the CEO that I wanted.
And how did you react?
I was a little bit angry.
So did you find another job?
Well, it became evident to me that I no longer had a future at Lush and I needed money for housing, food, like gas money, stuff like that.
So then you said you're only loyal to, so then would you say you're only loyal to a company as long as it benefits you?
I feel like that's how most people are.
And in your statement, your witness statement, you state that you had a confidentiality that you had to maintain, and yet you went to this new job that you're going to and told them trade secrets from Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Well, see, in this industry, basically everything is a trade secret. So my parking spot, for example, at Lush could be a trade secret.
So then you're saying that you gave trade secrets after saying that you would be confidential when you went to your new company.
Anything that I could possibly say could be a trade secret. So I could be sharing trade secrets with you right now.
So then this is a yes or no question, Mr. Durst. Did you or did you not give trade secrets to your new job from Lush Fertilizer that after you stated that you'd have confidentiality, after you signed an agreement of confidentiality?
I could have. I don't really remember. This was 15 years ago at least.
And yet you're a witness to this as a member of this new company.
Can you repeat the question?
Are you going against Lush Fertilizer currently with information that you got from Lush Fertilizer and now making it public for everyone to know?
Well, I could be.
You are. Are you? Right talking, are you?
I apologize. You froze a little bit. Can you repeat that?
So then, as you're talking currently, are you sharing what you learned from Lush Fertilizer?
Well, I shared what I learned within my personal knowledge.
Your Honor, can I object to the witness being non-cooperative? That was simply a yes or no question.
Sir, just answer the question that's asked of you, please.
I apologize. Can you repeat the question?
So then, did you give trade secrets to your new company after you've signed a confidentiality in your agreement with Lush Fertilizer?
This isn't my statement specifically, but if you want me to answer it, I definitely can.
Answer the question, please.
I could have. Yes, possibly.
Yes. Yes.
Possibly, yes.
Thank you. I'd like to direct your attention now, finally, to the study that was done on Drufo. Just to clarify, do you currently work for Lush Fertilizer?
No, I believe in my direct, I said that I do not work at Lush Fertilizer.
Correct. And what was your job there, Mr. Durst?
I was a product development engineer. I was in the R&D department. It was fun for a time until everything kind of went bad.
Were you a scientist?
Well, this was in the research and development department. Has to do with chemistry, science, other things.
Your Honor, once again, I object to this witness because he's being non-cooperative. That was simply a yes or no question.
Yeah, sir, just answer the questions that are asked of you.
Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were you a scientist?
Yes.
And so you did not do that research on your own, correct?
No, I'm not the only product development engineer for a very large company. That would be way too much.
So then how do you know this data wasn't flawed?
Well, I don't not know it's flawed.
Do you know this data is flawed?
This isn't my statement, but I can for sure answer it if you want.
How can you know for sure that the research done by your scientists was not flawed if you yourself did not do the research?
I can't do all of the research for everybody. So if I do the research, I try to do my best, but there's bias in everything. There's bias in whatever chemistry experiment you did in class this morning or whatever.
Your Honor, one more
There's
time,
bias in
I
everything.
object to this witness because he's being non-cooperative.
Hey, counsel, I understand. Just continue your questioning, please.
Can you know for certain that this data was not flawed?
No, I cannot
Thank
because
you,
there are
Your-
flaws
thank
in
you.
everything
No-
and there's
no further
bias in
questions, Your Honor.
everything.
Thank you.
Any brief redirect for the plaintiff?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Sir, you can step down. Thank you. Any further witnesses for the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor, the plaintiff rests.
For the defense, do you wish to call any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Mr. Blake Doncourt to the stand.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Doncourt. I'll be conducting your direct examination today. Are you ready?
1 minute, counsel.
Yes.
Let me swear in the witness. You raise your right hand, please, sir. You swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your witness, counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Doncourt. Please state your name, spelling the last for the record.
Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
I'm going to begin the direct examination now. Are you ready?
Yes.
Could you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
I am the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer Incorporated.
And what has been your experience with Lush Fertilizer?
Since 2000, I have worked day and night to grow the company from an unknown producer of fertilizers to one of the world's largest supplier of yard and commercial fertilizers through years of research and development. Our flagship product, Lush Fertilizer, is used by businesses, governments, and individuals to produce vibrant landscaping.
And why are you here today?
I'm here to address the misguided claims that Drufo, a bonding agent in our fertilizer, caused Miss Dakota Wire's cancer.
I'd like to direct your attention to the claims against you and your company. Are you aware of what these claims are?
Yes, Lush and I are being falsely accused of ignoring a known carcinogenic Drufo in our fertilizer.
And what testing or research of the product was completed before putting it on the market?
We did extensive research and testing to determine any potential risks of using the fertilizer.
Please tell us about what you found in this research.
Our toxicology research and development team found nothing in the product, nor did the EPA, to require a warning with the insignificant levels of toxicity in our fertilizer. Because we found little to no risk to a person using the fertilizer, there was no need under federal or state laws to put a warning on the product.
And what did you know about any concerns with Drufo itself?
I was never aware of any substantiated concerns or given any reason to be concerned that the use of Drufo was dangerous. I had never seen scientific evidence showing a reasonable probability that Drufo was carcinogenic.
I'd like to bring your attention now to the claims brought against you by Carson Durst. What, if anything, do you know about these claims?
Carson is accusing me and Lush of financial motivation to put a dangerous product in the public's hands.
Objection, speculation.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm asking what the witness knows about these claims to lay foundation for further evidence or further questioning.
He can testify about what he knows. I'll overrule the objection. Could you please ask the question again?
Yes. What, if anything, do you know about these claims?
Carson is accusing both me and Lush of financial motivation to put a dangerous product in the public's hands.
And what is your relationship to Ms. Durst? Mr. Durst?
Carson had worked with Lush until he was fired and started working for our biggest competitor, Terria Greenery.
And what was Mr. Durst's job at Lush?
He was part of Lush's research and development team, meaning it was his job to look for any dangers or risks so that we could follow up on them.
Could you please tell us about any dangers or risks he brought to your attention while working at Lush?
He brought up no dangers while he worked at Lush until he started for working to Terria Greenery, where he had countless opportunities to bring it up before he started working for them.
And what did Lush's other researchers find in their testing?
They've all reached the opposite conclusion of what Mr. Durst is trying to claim.
What, if anything, do you know about the email Mr. Durst has brought against you today?
I know that he's claiming that the research and development reports were carefully crafted as to not damage Lush's image and make sure there was no paper trail of the real findings about Drufo.
So what do you believe about the validity of this email?
It's a manufactured email. We turned over our entire email system to the plaintiff's lawyer. They searched it and found no such email.
So then what do you think about these claims?
I think it's all about money. Carson got hired by our biggest competitor, Terria Greenery, and is now getting paid exclusively for a research position, much more than what we could have paid him. And now I hear that Terria is about to release a product similar to our fertilizer, but which they claim is safer and carcinogenic free. In my opinion, this would be the perfect time for them to knock off competitors through harmful claims.
I'd like to bring your attention now to the claims regarding your financial situation. What do you know, if anything, about these claims?
I know that Dakota and her attorneys are trying to claim that I put profits over safety through not baking the fertilizer because I need more money.
Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to Exhibit 8. Let the record reflect I'm showing the witness Exhibit 8. Your Honor, permission to screen share the exhibit for the purposes of the trial?
Yes.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, it's an amortization table I made in 2004.
And what does it show?
It shows the expected cost of baking the fertilizer. We could increase our profits by 6% in the first year and an additional 2% every year thereafter if Lush does not bake their fertilizer.
Do you acknowledge that this amortization table is genuine?
Yes.
2004 was quite a while ago. Why is this table still relevant today?
This table was originally made when the Lush made the decision not to bake their fertilizer. Since our continuous testing shows still no link to cancer in our fertilizer, we still do not bake our fertilizer. Therefore, the elements of this table are still relevant because we do get a profit from not baking our fertilizer.
Your Honor, I believe I have laid sufficient ground and move that Exhibit 8 be entered as evidence.
Any objection, counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 8 submitted.
Why did you decide not to bake the fertilizer?
It's too expensive for the little risk it alleviates. Again, we found no evidence that shows Drufo is potentially harmful, so it was simply overkill.
And why did you not publish your financial findings?
It's not good business to. No company would. This type of proprietary information is never shared with the public, as it would give our competitors an advantage.
So it seems like you made a lot of profits from not baking. Where does this money go?
Well, like every company, we have investors that expect us to turn a profit. Beyond that, we make significant contributions to environmental charities.
And what are these environmental charities?
Well, I've directed 10% of our annual profits to charities, which work to increase the world's global nitrogen footprint. Our company has also been instrumental in creating state and national legislation seeking to further educate on environmental issues worldwide. And we've started our own charity focusing on the cleaning up the world's most polluted ocean.
What do you think about the claims that through your intentional negligence, you would cause harm to other people?
It's an absurd accusation. I'm an avowed environmentalist. Had there been any significant, verifiable risk that Drewfield could have been carcinogenic, I would never allow our company to put it on the market.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any cross-examination for the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Duncourt. You are aware that baking your fertilizer would remove any carcinogens in your fertilizer, correct?
There's very little risk in our fertilizer in the first place, and so baking it would simply be overkill.
I'm going to move on to my next question. And yet you do not bake your fertilizer, Mr. Duncourt.
Yes, as I just stated, it was overkill to do so for the very little risk it alleviates.
You even sat yourself down and created an amortization table to determine the costs your company would have to pay in order to bake your fertilizer and remove those carcinogens.
Yes.
Thank you. I ask that Exhibit 8 please be showed to this witness.
Yes.
I want to do this. Thank you. And Mr. Duncourt, is this your amortization table?
Yes, it is.
And was this created to guide your business as the CEO of Lush Fertilizer in determining the costs it would have in baking your fertilizer?
This was created when we were a young company to try to make sure we could keep our investors happy by turning the most profit with the least risk.
Thank you. And is this a true and accurate copy?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I ask that that no longer be shared, and I move on to my next question. So due to your figures, you determined that you could increase your profits by 6% the first year and an additional 2% thereafter if Lush did not bake their fertilizer.
That is what my table shows, yes.
So you decided not to bake your fertilizer due to these figures.
We had to keep our investors happy, and it alleviates such a little risk, almost no risk at all it alleviates, that it was just not worth it.
The Wi-Fi crashed. And I'm the team member, so I can't.
Your Honor, we had some technical difficulties with our Wi-Fi, and it crashed, and we are no longer able to time keep.
You're no longer able to time keep?
No.
Do we have somebody keeping time?
I've been keeping time.
Okay. So are you unable to time keep at all now?
Probably not for a bit. The Wi-Fi that connects to my specific computer just crashed.
All right. Well, we have somebody keeping time, and if there are any disagreements about that, we will have to deal with them, but please try to fix that as soon as possible. We need to keep the trial moving.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to move on to my further question. So, Mr. Duncourt, you decided, due to your figures on your amortization table, that you were not going to put a label on your fertilizer. Is this correct?
No, not based on what I saw in my amortization table.
And you made that determination off of your studies.
If you're basing our claim that we did not put a label on based off the amortization table, that is incorrect.
And you have concluded that these studies regarding Drufo and cancer are not conclusive.
Can you direct me to which study you speak of?
Your studies on Drufo.
As in my specific company's studies?
Yes.
All right, can you repeat the question?
And you made the determination that the studies regarding Drufo and cancer are not conclusive.
No, my own studies in my own company are conclusive, as well as the EPA's, which we also based our decision off of.
And that is your determination.
That is not only my determination, but also the determination of the EPA.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any brief redirect?
No, Your Honor.
You can step down, sir. Thank you. For the defense, your next witness, please.
Your Honor, we are experiencing some technical difficulties.
What's going on?
The lawyer who is doing this direct was kicked out of the Zoom.
Are they trying to get back?
Computer restarted. Yeah.
They're trying to get back in. All right, we'll wait just 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you.
I just admitted somebody. Was that the council?
What's the question?
I said I just admitted somebody into the room. Was that the council who was having trouble?
No, he is still trying to log on.
That was me, the timekeeper.
Okay, thank you.
Would I be able to have the last time from the other timekeeper?
Yes, what was the time the other timekeeper had, please?
The time for the cross was 4 minutes and 7 seconds.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, the time on the cross was 4 minutes and 7 seconds.
4 minutes and 7 seconds?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My co-counsel is in the waiting room.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Ms. Schuyler to the stand, please.
Council, we're having a lot of trouble hearing you.
Your Honor, the defense asked to call Schuyler Weirs at this time.
Okay. Ma'am, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do.
Your witness, counsel.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Can you state your name, spelling the last for the record?
Schuyler Weirs, Weirs.
And Ms. Weirs, what is your current occupation?
I'm an investigative journalist for the Rationalist magazine.
And what has your current occupation brought you to investigate?
I typically investigate topics like individual health and corporate policy.
Now, individual health and corporate policy don't sound directly related to this case here today. So why were you brought here to testify?
I'm here today because I published an article about Drufo and its carcinogenic connection.
And how long did you spend researching and analyzing this topic?
I spent an entire year researching and studying the impacts of Drufo, but more specifically, its carcinogenic elements or lack thereof.
And what did this research entail?
It entailed that I personally go through publications on different agritech companies, which included Lush Fertilizer.
And what significant valid sources did you get your information from?
I used information from the United States Department of Agriculture and the National Association of States Department of Agriculture.
Your Honor, by Rule of Evidence 702, I believe that I have laid sufficient foundation that asserts that Skylar Weirs has specialized knowledge over the average juror through the excessive time and research completed on the on-balance impacts of agritech. We offer
Any
Skylar
objection?
as an expert witness in agritech analysis.
Any objection or voir dire?
Yes, Your Honor. Voir dire.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. You have no degree in journalism.
No, I do not.
You don't have a degree in agricultural sciences.
I was studying it for a year, and I do write about them regularly.
But you don't have a degree in agricultural sciences.
I have done the research that is necessary to speak on the subject.
You have no degree in chemistry.
No, I do not.
No degree in toxicology.
No.
In fact, you have no scientific degree.
No, but again, I have done the research necessary to speak about agritech and the analysis of those researches that I've done.
You have no college degree.
No, I do not.
You didn't even attend college, for a matter of fact.
No.
You have no formal education in these fields.
No, but I have done a lot of research on it.
Your research is what others have said and done.
Yes, and they are from, my research was done on credible sources that are on agritech.
You are not qualified to conduct medical research yourself.
No, I have not done any medical research.
So you have not done medical research yourself?
I have done research on agritech and specifically Drufo.
But you have not done medical research?
No, I have not.
You are a server at Applebee's?
Yes, I am.
You have not worked in agriculture?
I work for a magazine that publishes articles on agriculture and have done the research for those studies.
But you have not worked in the agriculture field?
No.
You are not a farmer?
No, I'm not.
You are not a landscaper?
No.
You have not worked in toxicology?
No, I have not.
You have not worked in chemistry?
No, I have not.
You have no experience in the biotech industry?
I do have experience on agritech and the research that I've done on it.
You sell articles to a magazine that promotes scientific skepticism.
Rationalist Magazine works to expose truths and unbiased truths.
But it is still promoting scientific skepticism.
It promotes truths.
Your Honor, we object to Skylar Weirs being recognized as an expert in this matter. We believe that she shows no skill, experience, training, or education.
Any reply, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. As an expert in agritech analysis, that my witness does not need these degrees and official education that the attorney has called for, but simply the analysis of the research that she has done for the specific amount of time that she has done it for, and for being able to focus on it. And she, by rule of 702, she has more background in it than the average juror.
Thank you. In accordance with the court's pretrial order that was issued prior to trial, counsel for defense is right. Education doesn't have to be formal. I find that this witness has done much research on her own and does give her specialized knowledge or expertise, and I will thus admit her as an expert under 702 in agricultural analysis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about agritech now. What is agritech?
Agritech is the use of technology in agriculture, horticulture, and aquaculture.
And what type of companies or products did you research while investigating Agritech?
I researched the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, but also a lot of other commercial agriculture companies.
And what did your research about Lush Fertilizer reveal?
My research revealed that modern fertilizers like Lush are a whole lot safer than older products that are still in use today.
And more specifically, what did your research about the chemical compound Drufo reveal?
My research revealed that Drufo doesn't have the added pesticides that are found in other grass seed products, like glyphosate and arsenic, which means that other fertilizers are more likely to cause cancer than Lush Fertilizer is.
And what does this mean?
This means that Lush Fertilizer's development of Drufo actually protects its consumers by the elimination of exposure to other chemicals that are known to be carcinogenic.
And through your time of extensive research on Lush Fertilizer and Drufo, what can you expertly claim?
I can claim that in comparison to other fertilizers, Lush is less likely to be carcinogenic.
And why can you say this today?
My research revealed that any study claiming that Lush is carcinogenic was always inconclusive at best, whereas many other fertilizers that my sister would have been using contain known carcinogens.
And once again, in your expert opinion, who is at fault for your sibling's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I honestly just want justice for my sibling more than anything, and Haven Landscaping allowed my sister to use harmful chemicals without requiring the use of proper protective gear.
Thank you. I would now like to direct your attention to your personal connection to this case. Ms. Weirs, how are you connected to the plaintiff?
The plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, is my twin sibling.
And what is your relationship like with the plaintiff more specifically?
Our relationship has been strained for several years, but even more so with the case.
And today, what is testifying against your sibling like?
I really do love my sibling, Dakota, and being here today and testifying against my family is really difficult, but I believe that the truth at any cost must be heard. So while family is important to me, I will not let the truth be left behind.
And are there any other reasons why this relationship might be strained?
A while ago, I started to spiral because I didn't have the same opportunities to get involved in sports and extracurriculars that my sibling did. And I started to fall into debt, but I was given financial support from my parents. And when Dakota was diagnosed, they turned away from me to help Dakota.
And what would your response be to someone who might call you resentful and spiteful in this case?
I really do love my family and I love Dakota, and I am here to bring truth, not to harm my family in any way.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination for the plaintiff.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. You're testifying today regarding reading that you have done.
Research, yes.
That is what you've done. It's reading.
I have researched and analyzed.
You started your reading with publications by agritech companies like Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
The direction of your reading was dictated by the content of industry articles.
Yes.
You are a freelance writer.
Yes, I write for Rationalist magazine.
Your job is to write articles.
Yes, it is.
The Rationalist magazine is run by the Rationalist Society, which is devoted to promoting scientific skepticism.
It's devoted to promoting truths.
You only get paid if your articles are purchased.
I do have another job, so really I'm just writing because I do love writing and I want truths to be out there that are important.
Yes, your other job is a server at Applebee's.
Yes.
Today you are paid to testify on behalf of Lush Fertilizer.
I do not seek any compensation for this. Again, I just want truth to be revealed, and that's why I'm here today.
Yet you are being paid to testify on behalf of Lush Fertilizer.
It is honestly extremely difficult for me to be testifying as it is because this is my sibling and it is my family.
Your reading about Drufo was for a series of articles that you sold to the magazine.
Yes, because I do work for the magazine and I did write articles on Agritech and more specifically on Drufo.
Your articles are only published if you sell them.
Yes.
Your reading was not directed by anyone else, like a professor or an editor.
It was directed by the research that I did and the credible sources that I looked into.
Yes, but you chose what to review.
I chose to review the truth.
And you interpreted what you read.
I analyzed it, yes.
And your interpretations are what you are testifying about.
Yes, my research and my analysis is what I am testifying about.
Speaking of free to testify on behalf of Lush Fertilizer, you are in debt because of gambling debts from an unexpected March Madness a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope of the direct.
Response?
Your Honor, may the objection be repeated?
Can you please repeat the objection, counsel? Counsel, can you please repeat the objection?
It was beyond the scope of the direct, Your Honor.
Response, counsel?
Your Honor, this is a cross-examination of Skylar Weirs.
The objection was it was beyond the scope of the direct.
Is any other response, counsel?
No.
I'm going to go ahead and sustain the objection. Move on, please.
Ms. Weirs, you admit that virtually every commercial pesticide has several well-known carcinogens.
Yes, most pesticides have carcinogens in them.
And by definition, you agree pesticides and herbicides are poison.
Yes, because of what they contain, most of the time they do have poisonous products within them.
All modern grass seed products contain herbicides.
Most of them do.
And nitrogen is known to contribute to various cancers.
Yes, it is.
Lush Fertilizer includes the active ingredient nitrogen.
Yes, but Lush Fertilizer uses Drufo as a bonding agent to prevent that nitrogen from contaminating waterways, which is most of the time how that nitrogen can cause cancer.
Drufo, the bonding agent in Lush Fertilizer, like you mentioned, is a pesticide.
Drufo acts as a pesticide.
Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
Any brief redirect, counsel?
Very brief, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
On the topic of grass seed products, Ms. Weirs, why is Drufo better than other fertilizers?
Drufo is better because it's not applied as often as other fertilizers. And again, those fertilizers do contain known carcinogens, so the less it needs to be used, the better for everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Based on just that question, any brief recross?
No, Your Honor.
You can step down, ma'am. For the defense, please call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Devin Williams to stand.
You could please raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your witness, counsel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams. Please state your name and the last for the record.
Devin Williams, Williams.
Where are you employed?
I work for Lush, a successful fertilizer company here in the US.
And how long have you worked there?
7 years and counting.
What are your responsibilities at Lush?
I was originally a technician, but now I lead the toxicology department of research, which makes me in charge of large decisions regarding the chemicals and their safety.
Could you expand on that?
Sure. No, you guys don't have PhDs. Allow me to simplify. I work with different chemicals to understand the reactions given different environments, as well as people. My curriculum vitae covers this extensively.
What educational and professional qualifications do you have?
A lot. I have a PhD and have worked in other specialized programs before moving to Lush. My curriculum vitae also covers this extensively.
Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to what has previously been marked as Exhibit 9. Let the record reflect that we're looking at Exhibit 9. May my
You have that in front of you? Does the witness have that in front of her?
No, I do not right now.
You go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry. Can we go ahead and screen share that then?
Yes, no problem, Your Honor. Okay, Dr. Williams, do you recognize this?
Yes,
What is it?
my curriculum vitae.
Is it true and accurate to the knowledge?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your previous education?
I'd love to. I got my PhD in pharmacology and toxicology, along with a master's degree in forensic toxicology from CSU. I also did a specialized post-PhD program in pharmacotoxicology at the University of Utah.
What professional background do you have?
I was employed at Colorado State University, CU Denver, and the University of New Mexico, and the Larimore County office.
Your Honor, I believe that I have laid sufficient foundation and I move to have Exhibit 9 entered as evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Objection, hearsay.
Response?
It is not hearsay because it is a document that was provided by my witness on her employment.
I believe, this is being offered to prove the truth of the matter, what her qualifications are. She has testified to some of that already, but I do find this is hearsay, so I will sustain the objection.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Williams, what was your previous employment?
I'm so sorry, I didn't catch any of that.
I'm sorry.
Good.
What was your previous employment?
I worked for CSU
What
as
do
an
you do for
associate
your
professor of toxicology. I've also worked as a tenured assistant professor of forensic toxicology at the University of New Mexico.
What did you do at your previous employment?
I worked for CSU. Wait, what did you say?
What did you do at your previous employment?
I can't hear you at all.
I'm sorry. What did you do for your previous employment?
Oh, at CSU, I was an associate professor of toxicology, and I was an assistant professor of forensic toxicology at the University of New Mexico.
Could you tell the jury a little bit about your publication?
Sure. I was published in the Forensic Aspects of Poisons, the Alteration and Prolactin Secretion in Female Rats by Some Endocrine Distributing Chemicals, among other works.
Your Honor, I believe I've laid sufficient evidence, and I move to have Dr. Williams entered as an expert in toxicology and pharmacology.
Counsel, any objection or brief voir dire?
Objection, Your Honor. I don't believe the proper foundations have been laid for this witness to be admitted as an expert in toxicology.
Based on the witness's testimony, her training experience, her education in toxicology as forensic toxicologist and other jobs, I find she does have specialized knowledge and experience that would help the jury, and she will be admitted as an expert under 702.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let's focus on Drupo and its relationship to the fertilizer industry. Dr. Williams, what does Drupo do? What do fertilizers do?
They enhance plant growth in two main ways. They either add nutrients or enhance the effectiveness of the soil by modifying its water retention and aeration, affecting environmental balances.
What is the need for multi-nutrient fertilizers?
Well, they modify environmental balances, thus solving the eutrophication crisis.
What is the eutrophication process?
For those unfamiliar, the eutrophication process is a buildup of excess nutrients in water due to agricultural runoff. It all stems from too much unused nitrogen, which accumulates in the water, creating a huge problem for the environment.
How does this create a problem for the environment?
This process destroys wildlife, reduces oxygen levels, and creates a home for harmful bacteria to thrive.
Why was Drupo created?
Well, the environmental issues that these older fertilizers caused sprung the search for a solution, and that's how Drupo began to be developed.
How does Drupo solve the environmental problems created by fertilizers?
Unlike other fertilizers, Drupo binds to plants and soil, meaning less of the product needs to be used and less is washed away. This is significant because it greatly decreases nitrate production and runoff, therefore slowing down the eutrophication process.
I would now like to focus on the politics surrounding Drupo. Why is Drupo banned in the EU?
Drupo is illegal for reasons completely unrelated to cancer risk. In fact, it was banned because of too much nitrogen in natural water, which is exactly what our product prevents. But it doesn't look that way in the labs.
What is this EU ban based on?
It's based on laboratory results, not results in nature. However, Drufo is such an effective bonding agent that it does reduce nitrates in nature. Controlled lab experiments do not always translate directly to the real world.
How did Lush respond to the EU ban?
We were a brand new company at the time and didn't have the resources to fight the decision. But after we finished our study on Drufo's effect in nature, we plan to submit our findings.
Are there any other bans on Drufo?
Lucky for us, the US Department of Agriculture relies on its own research, but a lot of less developed countries copy the EU's decision regardless of the actual facts.
Let's focus more on the plaintiff's claims that Drufo is carcinogenic. What do studies on Drufo and its relationship to cancer reveal?
The use of Drufo has not been correlated with a significant statistical increase in the incidence of non-Hodgkin lymphoma or any other cancer for that matter.
How are the carcinogenic risks of Drufo discovered?
Will you say that one more time?
How are the carcinogenic risks of Drufo discovered?
Well, we use statistics. When you take any large group of people who use any fertilizer, a small percentage of them will develop non-Hodgkin lymphoma, regardless of whether or not the fertilizer contains Drufo.
What does the statistics reveal about Drufo's likelihood of causing cancer?
Will you say that one more time?
What did the statistics reveal about Drufo's likelihood of causing cancer?
The data we have analyzed consistently revealed that the users of Drufo-containing fertilizers did not have an elevated risk compared to other users of other fertilizers.
Dr. Williams, why have you only compared Lush's fertilizers to other fertilizers?
You have to compare what I called in my witness statement, apples to apples, to reach a valid conclusion. Studies that compare vastly different scenarios to reach conclusions are often fundamentally flawed.
Are you aware of Dr. Rogers' study?
Yes, Rogers' study is a perfect example of comparing apples to oranges.
How so?
Rogers' study compared farm laborers, casual gardeners, and people who didn't do either of those things and their exposure to Drufo. Although farm laborers are exposed to numerous products and conditions, making Dr. Rogers' study completely invalid.
And why are these variables problematic in research?
These variables are problematic because if someone who participated in Dr. Rogers' study contracted non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it could not be traced back to Drufo.
What other important procedures are there in a successful and reliable study?
A study should be peer-reviewed and replicated. This has been adapted and accepted by the rest of the scientific world. Dr. Rogers failed to have their study peer-reviewed and duplicated, making their study less reliable than a fifth grader's science project.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. You are a toxicology researcher.
Correct.
And you have worked for Lush in the lab for 7 years?
Correct.
And you are financially biased in this case?
Nothing compared to Rogers' financial bias.
But you are paid by Lush Fertilizer to be here and to testify today.
I haven't given finance much of a thought. I've got a PhD and I don't rely on Lush in the slightest, but yeah.
Yes or no question. You are paid by Lush to be here, correct?
Did you hear the end of my answer?
You are paid by Lush to be here, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. You've worked specifically with Drufo.
Correct.
And you're aware that Drufo has been banned in the EU and in France.
For concerns not of cancer.
And you plan to submit your own study for the EU to reconsider this ban.
Correct.
And if Dakota Weirs is successful here today, that creates a whole host of roadblocks for you at the EU.
Will you say that one more time?
If Dakota Weirs is successful here today, that creates a whole host of roadblocks for you at the EU, correct?
I mean, I'm not really involved in the finance department of my company, but sure, yeah.
Okay, moving on. Half of the development team had left Lush Fertilizer when you were promoted to the lab, correct?
Correct.
And because of half the development team had left, this disrupted the timelines for Drufo, correct?
What do you mean by the timelines?
there was a timeline for Drupo to be, released. And with half of the development team leaving, that created a problem.
I wouldn't call it a problem, but it of course affected the timelines.
And then you were promoted to the lab.
Yes.
To keep Drupo industry leading.
Correct.
You are trained to identify when a substance is harmful.
Correct.
You are also trained how to neutralize that harm.
Correct.
And if there's a lot riding on your customer's success, correct?
There's a lot. Say that one more time.
There is a lot riding on your customer's success, correct?
There's a one more time. I'm sorry.
There is a lot riding on your customer's success, correct?
What does that mean exactly? What are you asking?
You know how to neutralize the harm, correct?
Correct.
So there's a lot riding on your customer's success.
I'm very confused.
That's okay, we can just move on.
Okay, sorry about that.
You cannot deny that Dakota Weirs has non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any brief redirect, counsel?
No redirect, Your Honor.
You can step down. Does the defense have any other witnesses they wish to call?
We have no further witnesses, Your Honor.
Does the defense rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on into closing arguments then. For the plaintiff, would you like to make a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
May it please the court, Your Honor, opposing and co-counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Carelessness, concealment, catastrophe. On behalf of Dakota Weirs, my co-counsel and I thank you for the attention that you have given this case today. Lush's carelessness of risk, concealment to knowledge of that risk and potential harm has led to the catastrophe that has become Dakota Weirs' life. A stolen life, stolen health, stolen promise, stolen dreams, stolen talent, stolen connection. Dakota Weirs had a scholarship to Juilliard, one of the most prestigious music schools in the nation. A scholarship that Dakota Weirs had to turn down because of what non-Hodgkin lymphoma has stolen from her. Dakota Weirs had a beloved connection with their grandfather, a connection that has been lost because of what non-Hodgkin lymphoma has stolen from them. Today, you heard from two credible plaintiff witnesses, as well as Dakota themselves. Dakota talked to you about the exposure that they had to the chemical Drupo, as well as the extent of their diagnosis. You then heard from Dr. Casey Rogers, who brought to you their very own study, a study that showed that there was a link between Drupo and cancer, specifically non-Hodgkin lymphoma. You then heard from Carson Durst, who explained the irresponsibility and deception that went on with the studies at Lush Fertilizer. Ladies and gentlemen, jury instruction 3 tells you that if a manufacturer of a product like Drupo knows or should have known about potential risk or harm, that they must warn of that risk, and failure to do so is simply negligence, careless. You then heard from 3 biased defense witnesses. Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, who only cares about the well-being of his company and about winning awards. They also state that there was no evidence to require additional duties of their company because there was no risk, but there was risk, and still no warning labels, careless. You then heard from Dr. Devin Williams, who was brought out of the break room to testify here today and to poke holes in this case. Dr. Devin Williams is financially biased and is being paid by Lush to testify here today. They only care about about the benefits of Drufo and completely ignore the risks. Concealment. Finally, you heard from Skylar Weirs, a 20-year-old kid with financial issues posing as an expert. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard today, it is not hard to be qualified as an expert. Skylar Weirs, Dakota Weirs' twin, a family member, testifying against family here today. That's not something that family does. With the resources that Lush has access to, ask yourselves, why pull an employee out of the break room and Dakota Weirs' twin to testify here today? Would no one else support their claim? Lush is proud of their product, but at what cost? Unfortunately, there has been a great cost. Mental, physical, emotional, pain and suffering, loss of connection and impairment of life, all of these intangible things that make life worth living, gone. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this trial, you will be asked to value Dakota Weirs' losses. And when you do, keep in mind the carelessness and the concealment that have led to the catastrophe of Dakota Weirs' life. Your job here today is to rectify the wrong that Dakota Weirs has faced. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Closing argument for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, esteemed judge, opposing counsel, we are here today to establish justice for Dakota Weirs. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-counsel and I proved that Lush Fertilizer is not liable for Dakota's tragic disease. This trial will either restore the good name of Lush Fertilizer or destroy a company who is simply trying to make the world a safer place. The opposing counsel's witnesses' statements consisted of a simple-minded, narcissistic attempt to manipulate young Miss Weirs. Carson Durst began his statement by proving his inaptitude on this case by explaining that he was only successful because of the handouts he received from the Doncourt family. Carson had an unfair advantage getting his job at Lush because of this relationship. Another important takeaway from this statement is that his loyalty only lasts while he is benefiting from it. Who can reasonably say that he isn't here today simply to benefit? He might say he's doing the right thing, but he doesn't even have the background in science to say that Dakota's cancer was caused by Lush Fertilizer. He wasn't even the person who conducted the experiments. Inferences will always be made, but that doesn't make them correct. Dr. Casey Rogers began by elaborating on what her job entails. As an expert in agriculture and Drufo effects on the body, she conducted an experiment to test the effects of Drufo on plants. Now, last I checked, humans were not in fact plants. Therefore, while Rogers may have tested chemical effects on the body, none of Dr. Rogers' data had to do specifically with how the chemical Drufo affects humans. Thus, no legitimate conclusions can be made about how Drufo directly affects humans negatively from her findings. Carson Durst, Dr. Casey Rogers, unreliable. The first witness today was the plaintiff herself, Dakota Weirs. She testified about how her childhood was influenced by her playing piano and volunteering in the society. The plaintiff's attorneys focused on the effects of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma on Dakota's life, which truly is a sad story. However, Dakota worked with many fertilizers, not only Lush's brand. Any of these could have caused Dakota to get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Dakota may have worked with Lush Fertilizer and Drufo, but she worked without the proper safety precautions. The only careless actions in this case were taken by Dakota herself. You also heard from the defense today, and we established that Lush Fertilizer has no liability through our witnesses. Blake Doncourt is simply a hardworking, moral businessman. He built Lush Fertilizer from the ground up and spent time making it an environment-friendly business. He made sure they tested Drufo before they started using it. His company took all the necessary precautions so that this would not happen. Mr. Doncourt also informed us that he contributes to environmental charities whenever he can. With all of the hard work he put into his company, ask yourselves, why now would he do something to put his company in jeopardy? Why now would he conceal anything? The simple answer, he wouldn't. Dr. Devin Williams proved that Drufo is a revolutionary component in agritech. As a toxicologist, Dr. Williams is in charge of making sure Lush Fertilizer products are safe. Through intense research and testing, Dr. Williams reinforced the fact that Drufo is not dangerous to humans because it is applied less. This means that there is less nitrogen in the soil, which makes the soil safer. Skylar Weirs did the hardest thing for a person to do. She testified against her sister. Nothing could be harder than testifying against someone you know and love dearly. Skylar made this hard decision to show how much she cares about justice and how unbiased her opinions truly are. She also proved she was qualified for this case by explaining her background on agritech and by staying up to date with events in agritech. The only thing stolen in this case is Dakota's time. Throughout this case, the defense proved time and again that there is no possible way Dakota could have gotten cancer by working with Drufo's safety. I wish I could say that the plaintiff cares about Dakota's well-being, but they don't. All they're doing is pulling the strings to destroy an environment-friendly company. To them, Dakota is simply a puppet to make money. As a cancer patient, the plaintiff sees Dakota as weak. Dakota's conditions were not caused by Lush fertilizer. Lush fertilizer was tested before being used. The most important question we have to ask ourselves is, why are we gathered here today? We're here today to stop the puppeteering dominance over the people with illnesses. Dakota Weirs is more than someone who got cancer. Dakota Weirs represents all those that have been taken advantage of to make money. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to establish justice for Ms. Weirs. However, Lush Fertilizer is not at fault. Blaming this company does not achieve true justice. My co-counsel and I truly wish the best for Dakota. The best for Dakota right now is to try and figure out how to live with her disease, not merely to be manipulated by the plaintiff for something as petty as money and simply a waste of time. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, everyone, thank you. Could the scoring panel just let me know when they've submitted their score sheets, and then we can just do some quick feedback, please. Ms. Wiggins, do you need a little more time?
I do. I'm having like some math issues. You know, that's why I'm a lawyer. Give me a minute, please.
Okay. Understood.
The funniest part is that it actually added up for me at the end, and I didn't realize that until I did it all myself. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, no problem. We'll just go ahead and start with you, Miss Mills.
Thank you, Judge. Kudos to both teams. Very well done. Very impressive. I would say, the best advice I could give anyone thinking about going into this field is just, really the judge is looking for the most reasonable person in the room. And it's not really about performance art or theatrics as much as it is about having a solid argument and stating it concisely and clearly. And I think you both did very good jobs, and I am very happy that I got to be here to see it today. So thank you.
Thank you. Miss Wiggins?
I agree. Great job. I've been lucky enough to judge these many times, and I've never ceased to be amazed at the level of work that goes into this. It's very obvious how hard you have all worked. You knew your case. You did well. It's hard to respond to objections. I noticed some concerns around that. That happens even to lawyers who are really in court, where you're like, what? What's that objection? And how am I supposed to respond to that? But I thought you did a really nice job. The plaintiff, you had your theme, and you stuck with it from the start to the finish, and I thought that was really good. The power of threes. It's obvious you guys, learned that, and I thought that was really good. I thought both of you did a great job. You were given some curveballs with this problem, which is part of the fun of the people who make these problems. Like having that person, Skylar, be an expert is kind of funny, but but it happened, and you all did what you needed to do with what you were given. I thought it, again, very impressive. Good work.
Thank you. Mr. Bluth?
Thank you, Judge. I want to echo what Ms. Mills and Ms. Wiggins have had to say. Generally, me personally, I've always wanted to be an attorney, and I knew that in elementary school and through high school. And I can say, without a doubt, I was not nearly as well prepared in high school as you all have been. So, if any of you are considering a career in the legal realm, I think you're all well on your way. So, you all should be very proud of the work that you've put in. I'll give just a few pointers to those teams that are going to move on, just for your benefit. A couple things. I think the difficult thing to learn when you're putting together a direct examination or a cross-examination, for that matter, is learning where to press and where to lean off of it. The best advice I ever got was, before you go into an examination, be it a cross-exam or a direct exam, always ask yourself, what do I ultimately want to accomplish here? That's where you want to start. I always start with what I want to be able to say in my closing argument, and I work backward from there. And so when you're crafting your examinations, ask yourself, what is my ultimate goal here? What am I trying to accomplish? And then work backward. Craft your questions so that you can get to that goal, rather than simply saying, well, I'm going to ask these questions and now I've achieved my goal. You need to know exactly what you're trying to get to, and then work backwards in crafting questions. The adversarial proceedings can be difficult because you're arguing against someone else's point, but when you're in court, you're trying to do that in a way that is still respectful and is still reasonable and rational. And so it can be difficult sometimes to find the right words to get your point across while avoiding personal attack. There are things that sound like personal attacks, for example, things of that nature. So whichever team moves on, I would encourage you, especially in your opening and closing arguments, to take a look at the words you're using in your word choice and ask yourself, am I getting too personal here with the way I'm phrasing this? Because phrasing matters. So I would recommend taking a look at that. And finally, anticipation. The best advocates are always the ones who can make the other side's argument for them. So when you're putting together a direct examination, for example, and you want to ask a question, you should be able to anticipate what a possible objection might be or what it might look like, and be prepared to respond to that with a rule or an explanation or what have you. I think that's one area that I think that everyone could improve in, is trying to anticipate what those objections will be to those questions that you're going to ask and having a response ready quickly. Those are just my main takeaways. I think you all did a great job, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Thanks. It was a pleasure to do this and be here. I appreciate it. I love the opportunity to do this. You all did a great job. So take care and good luck to the team that moves on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like kind of walk.
Rebecca, before you leave, could you click submit on your scores? I don't think they came through.
Josh, did you get my email?
I did. Thank you. We just made
Okay.
the change too on the scoring sheet. Cameron, I think you should apply for the bench.
I completely understand why the standard of review is abuse of discretion for evidentiary reasons. It's not easy. That was fun. Thanks. Thanks for this opportunity.
No, thank you for signing up. Your office is amazing, and I'll be sending your office crumble cookies or something in the next week or so.
All right. Thanks. Take it easy.
Take care. Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Rebecca.
So it's lost, so I have to redo it. Love technology. Okay, I will. I'll get that done right now.
No worries. Thank you.